Here we have the 2024 Samsung S95D. This happens to be a 65-inch OLED TV with the glare-free surface on it, which everyone's very excited about. A lot of you have asked me, we know that out of the box, this ships like every other Samsung TV in dynamic mode. The picture really pops on the retail floor. But when I look at an ISF color pattern like this, I can see that's not a Rec 709 red. That's very hot. You know, this green looks very hot. The background, which is supposed to be D65, looks very bluish. So how do I get this to be accurate? Well, let me show you. First, what I do is I go into the settings. Now on the 2024 Tizen OS, you'll see that the all settings is right at the front, which is nice. And then I get to picture mode. We're going to take it out of dynamic and we're going to take it to movie mode. Movie mode is going to give you the greatest flexibility to change the settings to get everything that you want to be accurate. Now in expert settings, I'm going to have to use a grayscale pattern, some kind of test pattern if I really want to get the brightness and contrast set correctly. But I can tell you from our preliminary playing around with this TV, for the most part, you want the brightness and contrast set all the way up, at least on the current version of firmware. The other thing that movie mode will do is take your sharpness down to 0, but that really softens the image quite a bit. If I look at the eyes and the hair on this girl in the middle, I can see that it looks a little fuzzy. We found bringing it up to about 10 will really sharpen it up without giving you too much detail enhancement. Color and tint, we leave those where they are. Picture clarity settings gives you really good movie-like motion when you have it set to custom. It is set that way by default, but it's important to note not every other mode is set that way. Blur reduction on 10, judder reduction on 3 tends to look very good. Contrast enhancer, that's something we try to leave off. You can turn this on, you can start to make the image pop a little bit more, but it'll trade off some low-level details in the image. However, I tend to change color tone. Warm 2 is going to give you the most cinematic color, more of a D55 than a D65. I tend to like warm 1. It does warm it up a little bit. You get closer to D65 with that. Standard is, or cool, you know, it gets much too blue. But warm 1, without measuring this with a colorimeter, you're going to find is probably going to give you the best balance. Now, if you do have a color meter, you can get into the white balance and do either a 2-point or a 20-point in movie mode. That's not something that you can effectively do without measuring, so we're not going to touch that. The gamma, this is going to affect how quickly the image comes out of black. We found it set a little bit too low by default, so we like to bring that up a click or two. You'll see instantly as I do that, it brightens up the picture. If I bring it up too much, it tends to get a little bit washed out with the black. So yeah, you can do it by eye. I mean, in theory, you should really be doing that with the right test patterns. Shadow detail is also another one of those things that'll bring up your black level. And we tend to like that up a little bit as well from what we've measured. Color space settings, it should be on auto. Now you'll see that it defaults to BT709, which is what it should for SDR. If I switch to an HDR image, this will come up as DCI P3 by factory default. You might want to change that. I'd have to go in and go to custom, and then once I go to custom, I could then go in and change this when I'm in HDR mode to Rec 2020. So that's something that might give you a better color space. We haven't fully measured that, but those are our initial findings. Otherwise, just leave it in auto. Color booster is another one of those settings that adds an enhancement that we think detracts from the accuracy of the image. So we usually leave that alone. Smart calibration is a whole nother thing. We'll get into that another time. We've done this for previous Samsung models. Peak brightness, we have found, because this is an OLED and there's always that slight danger with OLED if you have static images for a long period of time, that you could have some burn-in. But with Samsung's quantum dot technology, we haven't heard of any cases in the field of OLED burn-in. I like this on high because on high, that's really going to give you the most peak brightness without causing damage to the TV. I think we ran through all of the settings at this point. Yeah, we did. We don't want to reset the picture. So there you have it. We've got accurate color in movie mode, and you can see how bright the image is. It's really a great TV.